welcome to Cross Yoga. My name is Ria. I'm here to guide you through a slow class today. I have a block with me. You can't see it. I'm seated on it. So if you have a block, maybe two, bring them along. If you don't have, maybe a big water bottle or a couple of books or something like that can be helpful. The topic of this class is simply listening. So find that comfortable seat and close your eyes. When you feel ready to breathe a little bit deeper, you're welcome to do so. And if there is a prayer on your heart or something that you need to let go of, you can always do that right now. I'll spend a few moments breathing and listening. Warm up the spine gently. Guide you through a very short flow sequence to warm up the body and then slow down. Finishing off with a few stretches and rest. Take a moment to listen to your surroundings. Sometimes we try to avoid listening, but right now just try to listen to whatever you can hear in your surroundings right now. And then maybe you listen to your breath. Maybe it's very silent, maybe it's not. And then you can listen to your body as you circle your shoulders slowly forward, up, back and down. At least my shoulders tend to make some noise once in a while. And then do some free seated movements, whatever you feel like. So if you listen to your body, you might sense that there is a certain direction that is really nice to move into. Maybe your legs need to be stretched out as well. We listen all the time. We even listen when we're not aware of it, when we don't consciously think about it. But if you just think through your day, if it's evening, maybe you think through your current day, or maybe you think past throughout the week, coming out of your seat. What are you listening to? Like throughout the day? Podcasts, music, your husband, your kids, news. What are you filling your hours with listening to? And you can get yourself into downward facing dog and still move. If you're new to downward facing dog, you might spread your fingers out, micro bend the elbows. Keep the knees bent. If you feel like going into a plank is a good idea, you can move into a plank on your toes or your knees. And back into downward facing dog. Let's do it one more time if you're up for it. And downward facing dog. And you walk your feet to the top of the mat. And bring your block with me on the highest height, most likely. Just going to do a few of those rotations with your spine. So you can bring your left hand on the top of the block there and right arm up. Maybe take an inhale and then you exhale, folding forward, bend your knees as much as you need. Inhale, other arm up, exhale, fold forward. And do this a few times. And when you're done with the last rep, you can just move the block aside, move into mountain pose, standing at the top end of the mat. Ground your feet firmly down, soften your knees. You can let your palms face forward and rotate the shoulders slightly back for that opening in the chest and the shoulder. And then circle your arms up overhead. Bring the palms to meet on top of your head. Go for a small back bend, opening up the chest. Mountain pose again. Soften your knees, fold forward. Fingertips on the floor or maybe on your block if you have it nearby. And then you take your right foot, put it on the back end of the mat, turn it around, warrior two, which means the back foot is aligned with the short end of the mat. And the front knee is stacked over the ankle. Get the arms out, align it with the floor so the palms are facing down. Go for the side ankle, which means elbow down on the thigh. Back arm reaches aligned with the ear, so you create a straight line from the back foot to the fingers up overhead. And then let this top arm reach down on the floor, which is your right hand. Take the back heel off, sink the hip down. Your left arm can reach forward, thumb pointing up. And then circle the arm like a half circle up and back, and maybe extend the front leg to some degree. Now the block here can be super helpful underneath the right hand if the floor is far away. Let's just do that circle one more time, especially if you're new to this. Arm to the front, and then circle the arm up overhead. I try to extend my front leg. And then bring the hand down. Step to the front. Maybe move the block full forward. All of that other side. Reach up, navel in, high mountain, palms meet. Back bend. Standing tall again. Soften your knees, fall forward, maybe with a little bit of resistance. So you're going down slower than you normally would. Fingers on floor or block. Take the left leg, move it back. Pivot the foot so that the toes are pointing towards your left side. Rise up into warrior 2 on this side. And maybe you take a look at your front knee. If it tends to drop in, kind of sacking on the inside of your ankle, try to move it out to see if it can stay over the ankle, which is a little bit hard sometimes. Elbow down on the thigh and lean forward, stretching the whole side body. This top arm, left, comes down, maybe on a block. On the inside of the back foot or the front foot, back heel moves off, hip some degree down, right hand forward. And then move the arm, maybe extend the front leg in the process. And as we did before, we're just going to do 2 circles here. So one more time. Fingers on the floor and see if you can get the back foot to meet the front foot at the top of the mat. One more time, a little bit quicker, but now you know the postures. Rise up. Palms meet. You're welcome to use your breath here. I will not cue it, but lean back. Standing up tall. Fold forward. Half lift, right leg up. Slowly lower it down. Turn the foot. Rise up in warrior 2. Try to push the knee out toward the pinky toe and find your warrior. Elbow on the thigh. Lean forward, navel slightly in. Top arm down on the floor or the block. I really like my block. Back heel off. Left arm reaches forward, thumb pointing up. And then almost a full circle here. Reach the arms or the arm up. Bend the front knee again when the fingers reach down on the floor. Come to the front. Fold forward. Last time, reach. And maybe sigh out as you lean back. And then listen to your body. Straight spine. And fold forward. So listen to your body as you move. Don't just listen to my voice. What is good for your body? Half lift, left leg. So maybe that is to not do all of these postures. Warrior 2. Elbow on thigh, side angle. Front hand down on the floor or the block. Back heel off. Right hand move forward, thumb up. Circle the arm. Fingers down. Take the back foot off and step to the front. Fold forward. And maybe you kind of do a little bit of a sway from left to right, holding onto your elbows. I'm going to slow down. You know, as we slow down, we get time to listen. And there's not a lot of noise around right now. It's just me talking, you moving together with me. So you have time to listen to your own thoughts. Mountain pose. And I'm wondering if sometimes we fill out our everyday life with screens and noises, music, to avoid listening to ourselves. Because when we become quiet, there's so much trouble, so much mess going on inside. So it's easier just to put something else on, and then I don't have to listen. But maybe it's good for us to listen. Chair pose, hip back, hands in prayer pose. Your spine is straight but hinged forward. It's almost like a lightning ball here in the direction that you're standing. Make sure you have your block in front of you. I'm just going to show you maybe on the highest side. If you have a soft block, you want to have two. Now you can stay put with both feet firmly grounded or do your figure four, which means your right ankle comes up on the left thigh, still keeping the left knee bent. So you stay put. I'm just going to show it towards the screen so you can see it in this direction. Like this, you see figure four. You can always do figure four with the foot down if you feel like that's better. One more breath. Keep the left hip in. And now this is the reason why it might be nice to have the block in front of you, because we're going to try to lean forward. And there might not be a lot of space here. So if you want to hold on to your block, you can do that. I'm extending the left leg to some degree. If you can reach the floor and go for a forward fold, it's really nice. Gives you a stretch on your right thigh. Maybe you feel it. And somehow make your way out of this odd posture. Bring your right leg back and always shake things out. High lunge, which means back heel off, front knee and ankle once again stacked. Lower down the hip to the degree that you like. You can always shorten your stance or go wider if you want to get sweaty. But bring your block. Put it in between your hands like this in front of you. And then you can push a little bit on the block with your palms. Notice if the shoulders move forward, put them back like a T shape with the spine and the shoulder, or a cross even. Keep pushing the block and move your arms up overhead. Take a hold of the block with your left hand only and bring your left hand out to the side. Pause when the arm is somewhat aligned with the shoulder. Bring the weight, I was about to say, about the block overhead, and do exactly the same other side. Keep the other arm up overhead. And then listen to your joint. You can't probably look towards the arm, so look ahead and listen. When is the arm aligned with the shoulder? Can you feel it? And switch other side. Maybe by now your front thigh is what you're listening to the most because you feel fatigued. Bring both hands up overhead and bring the block down. Downward facing dog. We're going to stretch all of the back of the left foot. By now it must be nice. It is for me. Keep a micro bend in your knee. And move your hip up and back and maybe kind of tuck the tailbone like you have a little bit of a arch in your lumbar lowest part of the spine. One more breath in down dog.
And then take your right leg to the front. Lower down the left knee on the floor. Low lunge. This is also an option you can remember for the other side when we're doing high lunge. We're going to do a twist. So again, you can choose hands in prayer pose, or if you feel a little bit adventurous, you can take your arms up overhead just to do a little bit of a different twist. Move towards your right side. First, spine tall towards the sky. And remember, just because you're moving your arms, maybe your shoulders to some degree, it doesn't mean you're actually twisting your spine. So you want to take the whole spine and do a rotation in the whole spine. And then, of course, the arms follow along. And then you can stay here. Or with that twist, navel in, lean a little bit forward. Feeling the front foot connecting with the floor. Breathe. You should be hearing your breath by now because it's challenged. Awesome, coming back. Both hands on the floor, back, knee off, step to the front. Fold forward. And shake things out. One more time, bring the block to the front if you know you're going to need it in that figure 4. And then find your mountain pose. Chair pose. Hip down, lean forward, bring your arms up over head to some degree. Big, deep belly breaths. And try to pay attention to where your hip is. You again stay where you are. Because when we do this figure 4, we tend to move the hip out. Now it's left leg, so you can see that this hip want to go out there for some reason. So we want to keep it in like we typically do in in chair pose. So your left, ankle, whatever shin can reach there. Keep the right leg bent. And it's fine to be shaking a little bit and feeling your fatigue, muscles fatigue. Welcome to lean forward, block or floor. Extend your left leg to some degree. And see if you can come out of it. Maybe you fall forward to shake things out. And take step left leg back. High lunge again. You could bring your block. We're going to do a little bit of a different variation now. Make sure your hip is aligned to the best you can with the short end of the mat. This back leg can of course be extended out as mine is right now, or lower down, whatever you choose, or a little bit of a bend. It really depends on what is going on in your hip. You don't want your hip to be moved back too much, at least. All right, prayer pose on your block. Hands up overhead, and maybe squeeze like 50% of your max squeeze on this block. With the navel in, gaze on the floor. Try to go for small side bending motions here. It's hard to keep the balance. And I am not going super deep. One more time to each side. And then bring the block down in front of you. Just the last few breaths here, really connecting with the front thigh, listening to how it shakes, telling you to release very soon. Down dog. Step the front foot back. Anything you feel like doing now is good. Make sure the shoulders is away from the ears. Is everything you're listening to good for you? Sometimes I'm wondering how all the things that we're listening to and paying attention to, how they actually influence us. I remember my child. You can take your left leg to the front. And then I'll share the story with my child. Was listening to these podcasts or whatever it was with true crime, like crime that happens in reality and the stories about it. And I just remember that was not helpful. She was filled with fear of going out because she had all these stories, which were true, right, in her mind. So I'm just thinking, what are we listening to that fills us sometimes with fear or anxious thoughts? But we still listen to it. We are strange creations, right? Hands in prayer on top of your head, and then twisting towards your left side, so towards the front leg there, that side. And then maybe leaning a little bit forward, respecting your body's limitations. And let go. Tabletop. And then child's pose. So get some distance in between your knees. Maybe your left knee is all the way out to the left side of the mat. And so with the other side. Forehead on the mat, and your arms can go wherever it makes sense. In my life, I want to listen to God's words because I believe that I don't believe it only, I also feel like it, I sense it, I experience it, that it is good. I pay attention. So as you're in child's pose, just listen to Proverbs here, a book of wisdom if you're not familiar with it. Proverbs 4:20. My son and daughter, in this case, pay attention to what I say, God says to us. Listen closely to my words. Don't let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and health to a man's whole body. So listening to God's words. I'll come back to that in a moment, but you come right into tabletop. And again, you're going to bring your block.
maybe on the highest height. Maybe you want to start with just the second height here. We're going to do puppy pose, which means you're standing on your knees. Bring the whole arm, not just the fingertip, because then you might as well do it without the block. You want to take the whole palm there on the block. And like a hanging bridge, let the core, so to say, hang down. So one of the blocks here of the hanging bridge, the pillars, is your legs and thighs, and then the block. So those two pillars and everything down in between just kind of hangs. If it's too easy, hop the block up. If it's too hard, don't go for the block. Just put your hands on the floor. Try to relax. And come out of it. Lizard pose is the next one. And if you know that your hips are super tight, you most likely will do this one without the block. But just want to show it so you have that experience as well. You can bring the block on your left side, or if you don't want to put your foot on your block, you can put it underneath your mat. But I'm going to put my left foot on the block so it will be grounded a little bit higher than normal, which will give me a deeper stretch. So if I have two blocks, I might use them, one on the inside here of the foot, you can't see, but I would use that, or just come out in your fist or whatever. So again, just remove the block if it's too much. Keep the front knee somewhat close to your shoulder. Try to soften. What is God's words? Well, it's the Bible. It can also be God's words in the church or with Christian community. I like to think of God's words as words of encouragement and love and care, and they are. But sometimes God's words are also words of discipline and maybe correction as well. Things I need to let go of. For example, listening or paying attention to the wrong things. Maybe if I put God's words first, I'll be reminded to let go of that. And now we let go of the foot on the block. Do whatever you feel like is nice before you move to the other side. So your right foot on the block or on the floor, and you might just use the block on one side. Don't worry if that's what you can do. Take 3 more deep breaths. And when they're done, you can come out of it. Maybe take a seat on your block or just the floor. Circle your shoulders. When we think about listening, we think about our ears, of course, because that's where the sound comes in, right? But the sound is interpreted in our heads, our minds, our brains. And sometimes we even say we listen with our hearts. I think you know what I mean with listening to your heart, what is good, what is true. So maybe you put your hands, your palms on your heart. It can be just the center as the illustration of putting your hands to your heart. And maybe you pray with me or just listen. God, may I listen with my ears, my mind, and my heart to your love, your encouragements, and also to your discipline. I invite you to speak truth. And help me to turn off what is not good for me and the calling that I have to listen to. And maybe God reminds you of something right now. You can stay seated like this, or you can bring your hands behind you, grasp the hands behind you and stretch your chest, seated. And find rest. If you know that you're going to stay for longer than just a few minutes on the floor, you might push pause on this video now and put on a silent timer so you can stay on the floor as long as you need. Now, if you have your block, you can use it underneath your shoulder blades. Please don't put it on the neck. It's not nice for the neck, but between the shoulder blades. So you'll put it on the floor and you pay attention to if your neck is okay with this, because it's going to be leaned back if you don't have 2 blocks. You can use the other block if you have as a pillar.
but you're gonna kind of find out where it suits you, and if it's too solid or hard, if you can always put a blanket on top of it. And find rest like this. We call it a heart opener in yoga language. So you see my heart is a little bit opened here. So other than that, resting posture as you would normally do it. If you can't stay here for longer than 30 seconds, that's fine. When you're ready, you can always roll out of it and just move the block to the side. So whatever works. But soften everything. And maybe receive that God is also listening to you. Prayers, sighing out, tears, screams, laughter, all that can be prayer as well. God is listening also to you right now. God is listening also to the things that you don't understand or can't put into words. We'll finish our time together. Maybe you sigh out, wiggle your wrists and ankles and stretch, or simply hug your knees in. And then you can take a seat when you're ready. Thank you for listening to me the last 40 minutes or so.